Yeah, I think we're in the middle of a total takeover by totalitarianism. I think it's the end of freedom and democracy as we've known it in America and maybe even globally.
Apple is considering, according to Elon Musk, removing Twitter from its App Store, which would, of course, shut down Twitter.
When you also hear reports that Apple is threatening to remove Twitter from the App Store because Elon Musk is actually opening it up for free speech and is restoring a lot of accounts that were unfairly and illegitimately suspended for putting out accurate information about COVID. And so if Apple responds to that by nuking them from the App Store, I think that would be a huge mistake, and it would be a really raw exercise of monopolistic power that I think would merit a response from the United States Congress.
A question about Twitter. There's a researcher at Stanford who says that this is a critical moment, really, in terms of ensuring that Twitter does not become a vector for misinformation. Are you concerned about, Elon Musk says there's more and more subscribers coming online. Are you concerned about that, and what tools do you have? Who is it at the White House that is really keeping track of this?
So look, this is something that we're certainly keeping an eye on, and we have always been very clear that when it comes to social media platforms, it is their responsibility to make sure that when it comes to misinformation, when it comes to the hate that we're seeing, that they take action, that they continue to take action. Again, we're all keeping a close eye on this. We're all monitoring what's currently occurring, and we see it with our own eyes of what you all are reporting, and just for ourselves what's happening on Twitter. But again, social media companies have a responsibility to prevent their platforms from being used by any user to incite violence, especially violence directed at individual communities, as we have been seeing, and the president has been very clear on calling that out. He'll continue to do that. And we're going to continue to monitor the situation.
But first, a European Union official told Elon Musk on Wednesday that Twitter needs to beef up its anti-hate speech and misinformation measures, with potential consequences spanning to fines to a total ban in EU countries.
We live in a world today where a few extremely powerful people, such as Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, hold an inordinate amount of power. And when these extremely powerful people decide to side with evil against righteousness and freedom, there is an enormous threat to millions who simply desire the ability to speak the truth freely. Recently, Apple sided with China's Communist Party and President Xi Jinping against the protesters against China's tyrannical COVID restrictions by limiting the iPhone's AirDrop feature only in China, which protesters were using to communicate with one another without being spied on by China's totalitarian government. CNBC says, meantime, Apple has a history of adapting its products and services to conform with China's strict controls. Last year, the company excluded users in China from a new feature designed to give users more privacy when browsing the web. Meanwhile, in 2017, Apple pulled several virtual private network (VPN) services from the local version of its App Store in China. Because such a large percentage of the world population uses Apple products, it is extremely concerning that such a powerful corporation would be working hand in glove with China's government against free speech and legitimate protests against tyranny.
It's setting up for Antichrist world where somebody can take over everything and there can be a massive slaughter of people who don't do what they're told. So I think, from my standpoint, I would say this is the world that looks like it's prepared for Antichrist to dominate it. We're all being prepared for that kind of global power, that global leadership. So I don't think there'll be a lessening of persecution.
Today, there is a coordination between virtually all of the most powerful corporations in the world, Apple, Google, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, before Elon Musk took over, and the most powerful governments in the world. Very recently, it was revealed that the Department of Homeland Security was coordinating with all of the major social media platforms to shut down what it deems misinformation.
From this is that according to the most recent Homeland Security review that The Intercept obtained, the department plans to target inaccurate information on topics such as the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic, racial justice, the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, the efficacy of COVID vaccines, and the nature of U.S. support to Ukraine. All of those things being policy topics on which it is absolutely, I think, legitimate to express a range of views. I think social media ideally is a place to discuss those issues, and we're learning that so many of the questionable moderation decisions we've seen on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and other places over the last few years are actually not being freely and independently chosen by those platforms, but are being pushed on them by the government, by law enforcement. That's something we're worried about.
Needless to say, the ability to speak truth freely is under direct attack by the most powerful corporations and governments in the world. They do this under the guise of misinformation and hate speech. But these terms are so broad that they can include anything they disagree with, and anything they simply do not want you to say. Before Elon Musk took over Twitter, Twitter suspended accounts simply for stating the truth that men are men and women are women. This is why both the Babylon Bee and Jordan Peterson were banned from Twitter.
I wanted to address you guys today because something big happened in Babylon Bee land. We got suspended from Twitter over the weekend. We wrote a joke where, well, not a joke, we wrote an actual article where we honored Rachel Levine as our Man of the Year. And we were just simply trying to give Rachel Levine this wonderful honor, and we got suspended from Twitter. So what happened is we got a message from Twitter saying that we are locked out of our account and we're not allowed to post. You know, your account features have been limited. Basically means that we have no access to our Twitter account. And we are not allowed back in until we go say 5 Hail Jack Dorseys, it sounds like. Basically, we have to go in and delete the tweet. You know, they make you kind of read their statement on hate speech and what their community standards are, and, you know, click that you agree with that and you won't do it again and say you're sorry. So we are locked out of our account until we do that.
I say banned, although technically I have been suspended. But the suspension will not be lifted unless I delete the hateful tweet in question, and I would rather die than do that.
It's already considered hate speech and unacceptable by these powerful social media corporations and governments to speak the truth about topics such as homosexuality and what it means to be men and women. The term conversion therapy is used to shut down attempts to have public discourse about the nature of same-sex attraction. Our nation is currently under the severe judgment of God. Romans 1 tells us, God gave them up to a debased mind to do what they ought not to be done. 29. They were filled with all manner of unrighteousness, evil, covetousness, malice. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, maliciousness. They are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, haughty, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, foolish, faithless, heartless, ruthless. Though they know God's righteous decree that those who practice such things deserve to die, they not only do them, but give approval to those who practice them. God has so given up the people in this culture to a debased mind that even the most Christian leaders refuse to go against the prevailing corporate and government narrative. Megachurch pastors like Joel Osteen, Stephen Furtick, T.D. Jakes, and countless others are doing everything they can to say exactly what the world wants to hear, instead of standing firmly upon all the truths of the Bible, even the controversial ones. They are accepted by all the elites in the culture, by Oprah, by CNN, by the Huffington Post, and even by the President of the United States. Would these pastors be so loved and accepted by the world if they boldly preached all that the Bible clearly teaches? Of course not. These are truly dark times that we are living in. But thankfully, there is hope in the midst of all of this darkness, because we know that God has already won the victory through Jesus Christ. None of what is happening is unexpected or surprising, because Jesus himself taught in John 15, if you were of the world would love you as its own. But because you are not of the world, but I choose you out of the world. Therefore the world hates you. And though the world may hate us and try to shut us up, we know that the gospel of Jesus Christ will continue to go forth throughout the world, saving all who recognize their sin, repent of their rebellion against God, and look to Jesus Christ alone for their salvation. God will certainly save all of His beloved people, and there is absolutely nothing that social media corporations or big government can do to stop God's perfect, sovereign plan from being fulfilled. So Christians, have courage, because we serve a God who is bigger than these CEOs and tyrants who want to shut down the message of Jesus Christ. And let us not be Christians who shrink back in fear, as so many of the most popular pastors are doing. Let us be bold and proclaim the truth about sin and hell, so that sinners might see the terrifying danger that they are in, and thus might be awakened and saved through the power of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Thank you so much for watching into the end. If you'd like this video, hitting the subscribe button helps this channel reach more people with the truth. Thank you so much for your support and encouragement.